Chronovey presents The Oak Island Mystery. Chapter 1. The Island That Refuses to Give Its Secret. Off the coast of Nova Scotia, where the Atlantic crashes against cold, rocky shores, there lies a small patch of land no more than 140 acres wide. From above, Oak Island appears ordinary, unremarkable, even. A few trees, a rough shoreline, and little else. But this island is anything but ordinary. For over 200 years, people have believed that something lies hidden beneath its soil. Something man-made, something ancient, something worth unimaginable riches, or perhaps worth nothing at all. But that uncertainty is what gives it power. It's the mystery that drives men forward and pulls others into ruin. Some call it cursed. Others call it the longest-running treasure hunt in history. But one thing is certain: Oak Island does not give up its secrets easily. Chapter 2. A hole in the ground, and a legend is born. It began in 1795. A young man named Daniel McGuinness, along with two friends, set foot on Oak Island. According to some accounts, they had seen strange lights dancing in the trees the night before. Others say they were simply exploring. Whatever their reason, what they found would ignite more than 2 centuries of obsession. Deep in a wooded clearing, they noticed a round depression in the ground, unnatural, as if something had once been buried and now settled under its own weight. Above it, hanging from a tree, was an old block and tackle system. A pulley, the kind used to lower something heavy, or raise it. They began digging. 10 feet down, they struck a flat layer of flagstones. At 20 feet, a wooden platform made of oak logs. 30 feet, another platform. Every 10 feet, a new structure, meticulously placed, deliberately hidden. What they had discovered would come to be known as the money pit. They were young, inexperienced, and unequipped for a proper excavation. But they knew this was not natural. This was no simple sinkhole. Someone had built something here, and then gone to great lengths to bury it. Chapter 3. Traps, Symbols, and Saltwater. Word spread. In 1804, a group of investors formed the Onslow Company and resumed excavation of the pit. They confirmed what the boys had found: oak log platforms every 10 feet. But more than that, they began to find things, strange things. At 60 feet, they unearthed layers of charcoal, coconut fiber, and putty. All foreign materials, none of which existed naturally on the island. Then, at 90 feet, they discovered a flat stone, inscribed with symbols. No one could read them, but one speculative translation has haunted the story ever since. 40 feet below, £2 million are buried. Driven by excitement, they kept digging. At 98 feet, the pit suddenly began to fill with water. Cold, salty water. It didn't seep, it rushed, as if a hidden floodgate had been opened. Within hours, the pit was completely filled. They tried pumping it out, to no avail. They dug side tunnels to bypass the water, only to have those tunnels flood, too. Eventually, it was discovered that the beach at Smith's Cove, nearly 500 feet away, had been engineered. Beneath the sand were layers of stone, laid in a fan-like pattern, creating a network of flood tunnels. These tunnels had been designed to channel seawater directly into the money pit. In short, the entire system was a trap, a booby-trapped vault, engineered to destroy itself, if disturbed. This was no simple burial. It was architecture, centuries ahead of its time. Whoever built it knew what they were doing, and they wanted to make sure that no one else would ever succeed. Chapter 4. Dead Men, Failed Digs, and Strange Theories. The trap worked. 4 decades. In the years following the 1804 flood, countless attempts were made to drain the money pit, to get beneath the 98-foot mark where the mysterious stone had been found. But every dig ended the same way, with water pouring in, equipment lost, and money spent. Then came the casualties. By the mid-1800s, as technology improved, more ambitious projects began. Steam pumps, cofferdams, drilling rigs, nothing worked. In one effort, an entire shaft collapsed, trapping and killing a worker. Years later, another attempt would lead to an explosion that killed more. As of today, 6 men have died trying to solve the Oak Island mystery. Local legend now says that 7 must die before the treasure can be found. But what exactly are they dying for? If the pit truly contains treasure, what kind? That's where the mystery deepens. With no treasure ever recovered, but so much effort poured into digging, the island became a magnet, not just for workers and investors, but for theorists, writers, historians, mystics. Everyone had a theory, and some were stranger than others. One of the earliest came in the 1860s, the idea that the pit held the lost manuscripts of William Shakespeare. The theory claimed that Sir Francis Bacon, a philosopher and politician of the Elizabethan era, had written the plays attributed to Shakespeare. Fearing persecution or scandal, Bacon supposedly encoded his writings and hid them, possibly in the New World. Oak Island, then a British colony, would have been remote and perfect for a secret vault. Supporters of this theory point to reports of parchment fragments found in the pit, along with traces of ink and fibers. They claim that the shape of the vault system beneath the island matches Baconian cipher patterns, complex symbolic geometry. There is no proof. But no theory about Oak Island comes with proof. Then came the Templar theory, one of the most enduring and romantic. According to this theory, the island is the final resting place of the legendary Knights Templars' lost treasure. After the Templars were outlawed and hunted by the French king in the 1300s, their vast wealth, gold, relics, sacred artifacts, vanished from history. Some believe that a fleet of Templar ships fled to Scotland, and from there, perhaps, crossed the Atlantic. Advocates of the theory point to Templar symbols carved into rocks on the island, such as a rough interpretation of the Jerusalem cross. They also cite similarities between the Money Pit's flood system and medieval trap engineering. Some versions of the theory go even further, claiming the Templars brought not just gold, but the Holy Grail or Ark of the Covenant, and buried it in North America to protect it from the Vatican and the monarchies of Europe. Of course, there's no concrete evidence. But what the theory lacks in evidence, it makes up for in drama. By the early 1900s, Oak Island had become more than a mystery. It was a magnet for dreamers and speculators. Each new expedition brought new hope and deeper holes. They mapped tunnels, hit wooden beams, even struck metal objects with their drills, but no one could retrieve them. The moment anyone got close, the shafts collapsed or flooded. Time and again, progress was followed by disaster. And then, something strange happened. In the 1920s, an excavation team recovered what they believed to be concrete, buried over 100 feet down. Concrete, before it was widely used in Nova Scotia. Who could have put it there? Later that same decade, another team reported a structure made of cement and wood, and possibly metal links beneath the pit, as if there were a vault down there, sealed. Was it man-made? Or just a trick of geology? No one could say. Because once again, the water came. Every tunnel, every shaft, every idea, swallowed whole by the island. But the more it resisted, the more valuable it seemed. The mystery of Oak Island had become bigger than the treasure itself. A story with layers. A trap with memory. An obsession with no end. And people were only getting started. Chapter 5. A treasure hunt on live television. The 20th century brought machines, money, and men who believed that persistence alone could defeat Oak Island. Between 1900 and 1965, dozens of companies attempted to conquer the island using increasingly advanced technology. Drilling rigs, caissoons, sonar, steel-reinforced shafts. Each team arrived with ambition, and each one left with less than they came. The closer they got to answers, the faster the island pushed back. Floods, cave-ins, tunnels that collapsed under their own weight. Bits of parchment, shards of chain, wooden supports, scraps of leather, These were the fragments pulled up from the depths. Always just enough to keep the obsession alive, but never enough to explain anything. By the 1930s, Oak Island had gained an unlikely follower. His name was Franklin D. Roosevelt, the future President of the United States. As a young man, Roosevelt had invested in one of the Oak Island excavation projects. Though he never set foot on the island, he followed every update. Even during his presidency, in the depths of World War II, he still tracked the dig's progress. He believed, or at least hoped, that the truth would one day surface. But it didn't. Not then. Not yet. Time passed. The island went quiet. Interest faded. Then, in the early 2000s, two brothers from Michigan, Rick and Marty Lagina, revived it. Rick had read about Oak Island as a boy in Reader's Digest. Decades later, with his brother Marty, a successful businessman, they bought a stake in the island. What began as a lifelong curiosity soon turned into a full-scale operation. In 2014, their journey became a television series on the History Channel. The Curse of Oak Island. What had once been legend whispered in taverns and chronicled in dusty books, was now playing out in real time, in high definition, for millions of viewers around the world. And for the first time, the treasure hunt had a global audience. The show didn't just retell the myth. It built upon it. Each season brought new digs, new technology, and new clues. They discovered old tunnel systems not previously documented. A Roman-style crossbow bolt. A lead cross resembling those carried by Templar Knights. Parchment fragments deep underground, possibly from a book. And, perhaps most curiously, they found traces of gold and silver in water samples taken from boreholes. If no treasure had been buried, why was there evidence of precious metals? Was it contamination? Was it real? Or was the island still playing its old tricks, offering just enough to fuel the next season? Some viewers called the show slow, repetitive, overly dramatic. Others saw it as the most transparent and persistent effort in 200 years to finally crack the island's code. Even now, Rick and Marty Lagina continue. Season after season. Dig after dig. They consult historians, geologists, military engineers. They cross-reference ancient maps, Templar documents, and ship logs. They drain swamps, scan coves, tunnel deep into bedrock, all in pursuit of something that may not exist at all. And yet, the mystery remains unsolved. The Oak Island treasure, if it ever existed, has never been found. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the island's value lies not in what it hides, but in how completely it captures the human mind. Chapter 6. What if there's nothing? For over 200 years, men and women have come to Oak Island with one goal: to uncover something hidden. They've brought shovels, machines, science, faith. They've poured millions into the ground. They've risked their reputations, and sometimes, their lives. And yet, no one has found definitive proof of treasure. No gold. No documents. No ancient artifacts proven beyond doubt. Only signs. Fragments. Possibilities. A log here. A symbol there. A piece of parchment. A trace of metal. Whispers. Suggestions. Nothing complete. Nothing conclusive. So we must ask, and it's the most uncomfortable question of all. What if there's nothing? What if there never was? It's a question that burns. Because it's not just about Oak Island. It's about obsession. About the stories we tell ourselves, and the lengths we'll go to chase them. Treasure is more than gold. Sometimes it's belief. Sometimes it's the feeling of being on the edge of something big, even if that something never quite appears. And Oak Island is perfect for that. It gives just enough. Just enough to hope. Just enough to wonder. Just enough to keep digging. Because if the treasure were found, the mystery would end. And for many, that would be the real loss. Even now, as new technology probes deeper than ever before, the island remains quiet. Silent. guarded, untouched, perhaps by design, perhaps by accident, perhaps by nothing at all. But one thing is certain. Oak Island doesn't just bury whatever's underneath. It buries those who chase it. One theory at a time. One fortune at a time. One life at a time. And still, the digging continues. Because sometimes, the unknown is more powerful than the truth. And sometimes, a question is worth more than the answer.